as long as I keep trying and I keep pushing to be the best that I can be, that's what I'm gonna be happy with. Like, as long as I go all in, and if I don't half-ass it, like Matthew McConaughey would say, and you just keep going for it, and if you just go full send on it, like, you shouldn't be disappointed in yourself. At least you can say to yourself, like, hey, like, I did the best that I could do with what I had, and there's no shame.
Hey guys, this week on Work for Avocados, I wanted to share with you a creator that I really enjoy. His name is Steve Hauser, and he's a surfer out of New Jersey, and he makes awesome edits, not only of surfing, but of his skating adventures as well. He's a really cool guy, and the more you find out about him, the more you just can't help but like this guy. We tried to meet up a couple times on his trip down in Florida, but the stars have just haven't aligned, but I really wanted to do something with him. So instead, we did the Zoom meeting where we sat down and he talked about his struggles and his rise in the YouTube world, how he finds support along the way, and even some of his crazy adventures where he's been surfing -8-degree weather, which, count me out, I'm good. If you guys haven't been here before, Work for Avocados is the channel all about surfing, skating, and being stoked on the small stuff. My name is Michael. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and also be sure to give Steve Hauser a follow. Without further ado, this is Work for Avocados.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm stoked. This is my first podcast being on one, so I'm really excited. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked to have you on. You seem like a really interesting guy. And the more I talk to you and the more I learn about you, there's a lot more behind you than what first appears.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you with that. And it's kind of hard for me to tell my whole story on YouTube, especially like my background and, you know, where I came from and just the history of me being who I am. And like, it surprises a lot of people that when I'm at the skate park or I'm surfing, they're like, oh, like, what do you do? Like, besides YouTube? I'm like, I'm a teacher. I'm a history teacher. And it's funny to see that on the opposite end too. When I'm teaching my kids in the classroom, they're like, you have a YouTube channel? What? Like, what do you do? So I think it's kind of funny in both worlds to see the reaction that I get from other people. It's like, you're surfing in the winter? Isn't it like cold? I'm like, you have no idea.
Oh, dude, watching your videos, I just like can't even imagine. Like, for the last one you just posted from a few weeks ago, just how thick the water looked. I was just like, I don't have the bone density to survive out there. I don't think I could do it.
That was gnarly. When it's -11, that's a whole different type of surfing. I always say it, like, winter surfing like isn't for everyone, at least up here in the Northeast. It's a different ball game. Like, you're being weighed down by like this really thick wetsuit. When you duck dive, you can barely breathe. You have to really like calm your body and mind out there because there could be big waves coming down. And those hold downs, it feels like you're under for so much longer than you actually are. It's just harder to catch your breath. And especially like a couple weeks ago, like you saw when it was, I don't know, it was like 20 knots offshore and it was -11 with that wind chill. It was pretty insane. It was so cold that my eyelids were like freezing shut. It was like hard to open up. I mean, I don't think I've ever been that cold ever. I mean, I've experienced some pretty cold times in my military training, which I guess we'll get into, but that was just something totally different. I mean, I experienced a lot of, like last year when I did the El Slamo Classic with Ben Gravy, that was really, really cold. That was the biggest blizzard that hit New Jersey since like 1996. And he hit me up the night before and was like, hey, I got 3 slots available. Like, do you and your buddies want to come down? And I was like, psh, dude, I got 2 buddies who are ready to go. And I hit up my buddy, Coach John in Bryan, Michigan. And I knew they would be on it right away because they're content creators just like me. They got their own YouTube. So for me, like having friends like that really makes it like, it makes it a lot easier for me to go out in those type of conditions when you have somebody always backing you up and always pushing you to be the best that you can be.
Sharpens the sword, keeps everyone kind of.
Yeah, and they push you to do bigger and better things. Always, and there's a lot of times I'm nervous out there. And like I said, my buddy Coach John Anthony, I got to give a shout out to him. He's always in my corner. He's always pushing me to like just push the limits. And he's like, you've done this before. He's like that positive energy I've always needed in my life. And I feel like we're on the same level as far as like surfing, to really push each other and to really like get to that next level together. So it's definitely super helpful to have someone like him. And it's really helpful to have, I'm sure you can obviously relate to this too, is my wife is super supportive with my channel. I never thought, she'd be like, you would think like, oh, your wife's probably not supportive. She's like my number one fan. She's like, you got to keep going. I would have quit.
That's awesome, man.
I think I would have quit this journey like 1,000 times over again if it wasn't for her. Like, she's like, stop looking at the numbers. Like, your one video did good. Maybe the next one's going to be better. So if I didn't have so many supportive people, like I said, I think I would have stopped a long time ago. And it's only been 1.5 years since I started this new YouTube channel. This isn't my first YouTube channel I started, but it seems to be the one that's being the most successful. And I told myself when I started this channel that like, this is the last shot I'm gonna give. And if this doesn't work out, like, I'm done filming, I'm done editing. Like, going into this third channel that I started, which is obviously my channel that I'm doing now, like, I had all the background skills of filming and editing from my previous channels. The big problem that I noticed about my other 2 channels was I wasn't telling the story. And I don't know about you, like, I feel like that's the hardest thing about a YouTube vlog, is telling that story. Like, for me, the filming and the editing, that's easy, especially editing. But going back and like rewatching it from like an audience perspective, it's like, you're not telling the story. Like, you have to like go back and retell it, and you miss this point. Like, the audience isn't gonna know that. So I always keep that like in the back of my mind. So I don't know about you, but that's the most challenging thing for me.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way, and that's one of the things I have noticed about your videos, is that not only do you tell the whole story, but you're also comfortable enough to not want to like have the spotlight the entire time. Like, you're perfectly fine with be like, these are all the people that I'm with, watch how like sick they are. And that's really cool to see, because some people just are like, no, this is my channel, like, people don't want to see me. But you're more than happy to be like, these are some random people that I'm with. And I think that's a really cool thing that's about your channel.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because I've always said, like, this channel isn't about me. Sure, I'm like the host, but this is about the scene. This is about, as my one buddy Bigos would claim it, he calls it the NES, the Northeast surf scene. So it's like, I'm just capturing what's around like me in my area. It's my life, like, through my eyes, like what I'm seeing. Sure, I'm there and I'm behind the camera. I'm the guy filming everything most of the time. There's definitely times where me and my buddies will swap footage here and there just to help each other's channels out. But I like it that way because I'm in complete control. I don't have to rely on somebody else. Like my previous channel, I had to get a group of guys together, like, hey, like, I got this idea. Let's all get together and let's film this. And there'd be times where people wouldn't show up, and I'm like, this is like, it was becoming too much and too stressful. And I think that's why I stopped my first channel, which was actually, it was doing pretty good. The channel was called Whatever Goes. It was like our little crew that we had together. We called ourselves the WEG crew, and WEG. But that crew started back in 2001, right after 9/11. And it was just like me and my buddies around town who skateboarded. And we're like, hey, we need a crew. That's like right when Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out. We all got a skateboard after that video game came out. I don't know about you. I was in 6th grade.
Oh yeah.
1999. I remember my brother bringing that game home, and I'm like, dude, I want to do that. So I bought a skateboard. It was a Veriflex skateboard. I'll never forget that. And I learned to kickflip. And then like my buddies are like, yo, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm skateboarding. Like, this is like the new thing. So one thing led to another. Everyone in the neighborhood is skateboarding. Everyone in the school is skateboarding. So by 2001, we started kind of mastering our skills, and everybody had these like little crews. So we were like, we need a name, and we called ourselves Whatever Goes. And there was no YouTube back then. I mean, we were just like, I think I was 12, maybe 13. And we just started filming with my parents, like VHS cassette tape. I mean, I still got the original tapes. I have one hanging up here in my garage just to remember, like, this is where you started. This is where you came from. And we would film these videos for an entire year. Like, everybody had a skateboard part in that video. And we would hand out video cassette tapes to anyone that is willing to watch in school. And I remember like one of the football quarterback came up to me in high school. Was like, yo, I saw your video. I'm like, no way. I'm like, what'd you think of it? He's like, you guys are awesome. I'm like, yeah.
Nice.
Like, I'm like, all right, we're making some traction. I'm like, I wish I had the tools that I have now. I wish I had Instagram and YouTube. I'm not really big on TikTok, but maybe I'll start getting into that a little bit more. I should, but
yeah, or just digital capacity in general, be able to just erase and all that.
I don't know, it was just so tough back then to make it, but we really, pushed through it through high school, and we were getting some serious traction. And then after high school, I joined the Marine Corps. I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps. Definitely some of the best times, some of the hardest times I've ever experienced in my life. My parents wanted me to go to college. They're like, yo, you gotta go to college. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to do something for my country. Like, just being and growing up during 9/11, just like you, like being alive during that is just, it just really rocked my world. I don't know, how old were you when that went down?
I was in 4th grade, I think. Because I was born in 92. Okay.
Yeah, I was born in 87. Do you even remember when that happened?
I do, yeah. My mom pulled me out of school. I was like, I remember being pulled out of school for that.
Yeah, I remember coming home and like all my buddies, we were looking up at the sky and there were no planes, and we're like, let's just go skate. Like, that's what we know what to do. Yeah, so after high school, I joined the Marine Corps. I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps. I got out as a sergeant. It was just like, I set this goal of like, you got to hit the rank of sergeant. And I was able to achieve that, which was pretty crazy. But while on deployment, we were in Morocco for 30 days doing like a peacekeeping mission with the Moroccan troops. And on our last day, we all went to the beach, and I'm swimming in the ocean. And I didn't grow up like living in New Jersey. I grew up in Pennsylvania. But I spent my summers coming down to the Jersey Shore because my parents had a beach house here. My mom was a teacher. So I spent my summers living in New Jersey. So I was very familiar with the ocean, like boogie boarding, and my buddies decided to rent a surfboard, I remember. And I was like, yeah, let me try that. I grew up skateboarding. At that time, I kind of quit skateboarding. And I remember a wave came and I just paddled and I caught the first wave. It was like on an 8-foot log, super easy. I'm like, dude, when I get home, I'm gonna buy a surfboard. And dude, every weekend I drove to my parents' beach house after that and I went surfing, like every single weekend by myself on a secluded beach, super dangerous. I was getting like stuck in rip currents. I remember my leash snapped one time and I was like, dude, I know how to swim.
Trial by fire.
Yeah, like I remember going in a full panic attack, the first panic attack I ever had in my life. I'm like, what is this? Like, I never knew I could experience something like that. But I was hooked. I was hooked on surfing, and just living in PA, it was really tough living in Pennsylvania and being a surfer. The struggle was real. I mean, you couldn't time the swells. You would just have to go when you weren't working. And I was just becoming more and more unhappy living there. And my wife at the time could see that. And we just had our first kid, Olivia. And she's like, I can't live like this. Like, we have to make a change in our life. Like, I can't. And my happiness was at the ocean. So she was like, all right, let's sell our house. And we left Pennsylvania. We lived there I lived there for 30 years, but when we bought our first house was in Pennsylvania, and we lived there for 5 years, and we sold it. And we moved down here to the Jersey Shore, New Jersey, because what she would like to say is like, we moved to New Jersey so Steve can surf. And
makes you happy though.
Yeah, dude, moving here was the best decision I have ever made in my entire life. It has made me so much more happier. Like, I would not be where I'm at if I never made that decision and that risk, and I just took a chance, and I'm like, I'm gonna find a teaching job down there, which I did. The pay was a lot better. I have summers off now. So with my time, living here and just getting better and better at surfing, at this time, my old YouTube channel stopped. That actually stopped when I was in Pennsylvania before we moved. We were filming for a video. This was like in 2017. And we were gonna do like an off-roading ATV video. It was gonna be pretty gnarly. And we were shooting the video in Western Pennsylvania. And within an hour and a half of me being there, I snapped my leg. I was rushed to the emergency room. I fell off the ATV and it rolled over my leg. My brother was on
Oh man.
Yeah, it was gnarly. So that was another thing that changed the course of my life. Sorry to back it up a little bit, but
it's a big part of it.
I'd never thought I was going to be able to surf again. I mean, dude, I really messed up my leg. I tore 3 ligaments in my leg. I tore my meniscus in 2 places. I snapped my tibia. I mean, the handlebar was like going through my leg. And if it weren't for like the quick actions of my brother, who really like stepped in, I would have been screwed that night. But we got me to the hospital. Long story short, they never did surgery. I don't even have a PCL ligament anymore. I don't think Tony Hawk has one either, so that makes me feel a little bit better. But so after all that, we moved to New Jersey. And so I started surfing a lot more, obviously. And then I had summers off when I became a teacher down here. And I went back to school. I got my master's degree, and I'm like, all right. Like, I did everything that I could. And I'm like, where do I go from here? Like, where do I go from here? I remember it was, I think it was 2000. It was last year. It was last year when I met Ben Gravy at one of the foam wreckers competitions. So I started competing in surfing. They came out with the Red Bull foam wreckers competition. And I think the first stop was in New Jersey. It might have been Florida. I'm not sure. Do you remember? I remember you going to one of the first Red Bull foam wreckers competitions, or did you do?
I think you went to one before I did.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe the first one was in Jersey. I can't remember. It was in LBI. And I'm like, all right, cool, foam boards. Like, I'm not really familiar with foam boards, but like I started getting into like longboarding a little bit more. I'm like, I'm not a nose rider. I'm not a performance surfer. Like, I didn't grow up surfing. I started surfing when I was 22. So I felt like I was behind like the ball a little bit. So, but I had a good skateboarding background, so I was able to figure it out pretty quickly. But then the foam wreckers competitions came through, and I met Ben, and I saw what he was doing with his vlog, and I'm like, this is really inspiring. Like seeing where, like how big he has become and like who he is, and seeing all these kids around him just being stoked. And he was just such a nice guy when I first met him. And I was like, dude, I think I'm gonna start a channel, like my own channel, like myself. Like I already started doing graphic design and messing around with my logo. And I'm like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go all in. I'm gonna try to do everything right. I'm gonna buy a camera. I'm gonna have like a merchandise shop. I'm gonna tell a story, GoPro camera. Like I wanna do this right this time. I wanna go all in. And if you were to tell me a year and a half ago that I'd be where I'm at right now, I don't think I would have believed you. I would have been like, you're crazy, man. I'm hanging out with Ben Gravy. What? Like I'm competing in all these Red Bull competitions. this is insane. And since then, I've done 5 of those Red Bull foam wreckers competitions. Last year, I went down to Maryland and I was 1 point away from getting first place. I got second place. I was so stoked to take home that board. That meant so much to me. And I'm kind of the guy who takes that competition a little seriously, but it is supposed to be a lot of fun. But I'm like, I really want to see how far I can push this. And it's, as a 35-year-old, being able to feel that again in my life, a sense of an accomplishment, whether it's, in front of people or on video, like, it's just, I feel like I'm a 12-year-old again. I'm a 35-year-old man, like, with a 12-year-old brain. Like, I feel like I just picked up my first skateboard again, and I feel like, I think that's what, like, my purpose is. And it's been a heck of a journey for a year and a half. It really has been.
So when we first started this conversation, you mentioned that this was going to be your make or break channel. Like, this was going to be the one where you're putting everything in it. And like you just said, you're competing in these competitions, you're surfing with Ben now. So in your mind, what is it to make it for you at this point? Like, where would you see yourself and you're like, I'm happy with what I've sought out to do?
It's a good question. And I guess I keep asking myself, that question over and over again. It's, I look back at it and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I got 5 sponsors now. Like, when I started this whole thing, I didn't have anything. I'm like, no one's going to sponsor a 35-year-old man. I'm working with companies. Like, I got a brand new, like, board sponsor that I met, just reaching out and saying, like, hey, like, working with companies. And I never thought I'd be a sponsored surfer or skateboarder too. Like, it's just, I feel like I have gotten to a point where I'm like, whoa, like, it happened so quick. But now I ask my wife too, I'm like, where do I go from here? Like, what's the end goal? And my goal was always like, you got to monetize on YouTube. And I'm like, right now I'm so close to it. Like, I got like,
you're in the hours right now, I imagine, right?
Yeah. It's like, it's all about, like, I need like 1,000 more hours to monetize, but my old channel was monetized. And once I monetized my old channel, I'm like, once I got to that point, I'm like, okay, cool. Now what? Like, I keep setting these goals, and then I reach them, and then I'm like, okay, now what? But, ultimately it'd be really cool. I think Ben has really laid out the blueprint. He's written the map, if you will. He's drawn out the map for us to follow for content surf creators. And I see where he's at. And if I can get to a fraction of what, he has. I was with my buddy Moose last weekend, and he kind of quoted it perfectly. He said, if I could have 1/8 of what he has, that would be great. If I could get to that point.
Yeah.
But, who knows? Who knows where it will go from here? It would be nice to have my logo on a board one day, have like a little semi-pro model for Rocket Surf, if I keep representing them and, really trying to push their brand. I feel like me and Rocket Surf, the new foam board company that I just got sponsored by, keep working together, and I can help him and he can help me. I mean, that would be an ultimate goal. But I mean, as long as I keep trying and I keep pushing to be the best that I can be, that's what I'm going to be happy with. Like, as long as I go all in, and if I don't half-ass it, like Matthew McConaughey would say, and you just keep going for it, and if you just go full send on it, like, you shouldn't be disappointed in yourself. At least you can say to yourself, like, hey, like, I did the best that I could do with what I had, and there's no shame. So I'm just gonna keep going. And I set for some reason, I set like a 3-year mark. For some reason, like, if I'm not successful in 3 years, then I'm done. But I think I already am. I'm not sure. I don't know when I get that. I'm never satisfied. That's one thing that my wife always tells me. She's like, you're never satisfied, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what keeps pushing me to to be better. And maybe that's what makes people great. I'm not sure.
Complacency can kill you.
Yeah. It can, because it makes stuff boring, and you don't want to keep just being comfortable. And I'm okay with change. Most people wouldn't leave their parents in their hometown where they grew up and go the distance, go far, and just say, listen, I don't know anyone who lives here, but we're going to figure it out. Like, it was a crazy situation to like, I had no business even moving to Jersey, but something was telling me, like, you got to go, like, or you're never going to do it. And this is the time to do it. And when I have a crazy idea in my head, I just listen to it, like joining the Marine Corps, and it tends to work out. I think if I never joined the Marine Corps, I would never have the discipline that I have now. I would never have been where I am in life. My wife said she wouldn't even looked at me at all, like twice. I was just going down the wrong path, even though I grew up in a very privileged life, if you will. Like, I was given everything: cars, education, houses. But I was like, I need to do this for myself, and that was more important for me, and to accomplish something on my own. And that set the tone for the rest of my life, 100% for sure.
That's awesome that you were able to recognize that, because for a lot of people, as great of an advantage that can be, some people, it can almost be like a hindrance, and it can, prevent them having too much.
Holds them back, 100%.
Yeah. So from here, what is your next step in between now and success for you? Like, do you have any major developments or phases you're working on in your YouTube channel, or anything you're looking to?
Talking with you, I've always, my next step, I thought about maybe starting a podcast. I started expanding off of my original YouTube idea. I'm like, I'm just going to do a vlog, skateboarding, surfing. But that branched off to like, hey, let me upload just a raw footage edit. Like, let me go on the beach and just upload some crazy people taking off like on some gnarly waves. And the first time I did that, boom, it was a successful video, a couple thousand views. And I did it last month, and that video got like 15,000 views. I'm like, whoa. So as I'm going and doing this journey, I'm figuring things out along the way. I think back in March, I'm like, let me start posting YouTube shorts. It seems like that's the thing to do. It's trending. And my audience, like, all of a sudden, boom, like, that's where I started getting a lot of traction. In the first year, like, my goal was to hit 1,000 subscribers in 1 year. And I did it to the day before. It was like 364 days. It was insane. I'm like, I'm not going to hit my mark. There's no way. I'm like, I need 150 more subscribers. I posted one short. It got like 75,000 views. And I woke up the next morning, like at 6 o'clock in the morning. I checked my phone. First thing I do, I check my YouTube Creator Studio app. And I'm like, oh my God, I did it. And Christine's like, what? Like, what happened? I'm like, I hit 1,000. She's like, oh my God. Like, it was 6. I woke her up. I was so stoked.
Dude, the day before, I bet that must have been
the
like
day before.
I
couldn't believe it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this. And I freaking did it.
Good for you, man. I know how hard that is.
Yeah, YouTube reminds me, like, you work hard. It's just like a skateboarding trick. Like, you're trying to kickflip something, or you're trying to this big transition air, whatever you're trying to do. You try, and you try again, and you fall, but you get back up and you keep trying. And you're not going to be a failure if you keep trying. You're only a failure when you quit.
It's all a process.
And my mother always told me that, and she is absolutely correct. It's insane. Like, if you just don't stop trying, you're gonna be able to make it. I remember failing my teacher examination 6 times. She's like, if you stop now, you're gonna be a failure. I took it that 7th time and I passed. And I wouldn't be a teacher if I just said, I'm just gonna give up. So you just gotta keep trying.
Oh, that's really cool that you were so passionate to wanting to follow through with that, no matter how many times you kept being presented with blocks. So appreciate you being on. Is there anything left that you want to say or feel like you haven't gotten off your chest for the channel?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. you have been a true inspiration too. Like when I first started YouTube, I somehow stumbled across your channel and I was watching a bunch of your videos. So I look at that and I look at other people's channels to see what they're doing. And I want to make sure I'm modeling and doing the right thing. So thank you. Without even knowing it, like you're definitely an inspiration to a lot of people. And, hopefully we can link up one of these times when I'm down in Florida. My parents got a house down in Flagler Beach. I know I'm not there as much. I'd like to be there more, but, with like winter breaks and spring breaks and stuff like that, it's kind of tough. But hey, I just got a camper, so maybe hopefully I can head down to Florida a lot.
Hey man, that'd be an epic vlog. That'll definitely get you to the monetized number for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And big shout out to all my sponsors: Siren Original Clothing, Bubba Coos Burritos, Righteous Felon, Beef Jerky, awesome beef jerky. If you're ever in the market for some beef jerky. Tandem Surf and Rocket Surf. Those guys have supported me since, some of them since day one and also along my YouTube journey. So big shout out to them. And I want to thank my friend, John Anthony, Coach John. He's been in my corner since day one, pushing me to be the best that I can be. And my wife too. If it wasn't for her, if you don't have that support, it's really tough to start and to continue to do what you love to do. But for me, this feels like I'm in the right spot. It feels like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I really truly think I found my purpose, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep at it. It's tough, and it does make it more helpful to know like there's creators like you, and me and you have never met each other like face to face. So that's another really positive thing. I've met so many people through YouTube doing the same thing that I'm doing or something similar to it. So that's been a really rewarding thing on my YouTube channel, is just meeting other creators and having and like just doing the same like mindset of things. It's really cool experience, and just believe in yourself and just keep at it. You're only a failure when you quit, when you give up. So don't give up and keep, pressing forward.